So, some of you know that one of the songs that our band sings here at Wellsprings, which if I had been thinking ahead a little more, I probably would have put on the list for today. It's called My Church.
Yes.
It's a Maren Morris tune. It's an older Maren Morris tune. It's one from when she was singing a little bit more country and a little bit less pop. And the song, My Church, is all about the places where she finds church, which is to say, where she finds spiritual connection, where she finds a sense of transcendence and wonder and meaning and comfort and joy. And in the song, she talks about where she finds church is in the driver's seat of her car with the windows rolled down, listening and singing along to the radio. Any of us have a similar experience when we're driving and listening and singing along to the radio? Yeah. One of our worship leaders, Adam Schaffner, actually recommended that song to our band back in the day. Melissa sings it beautifully. And it is one of the songs that we offer here that has language that is a little more churchy, obviously. Maren Morris is clearly, and I think she's doing this on purpose, I think she's trying to kind of juxtapose this dominant sense in our culture of Christianity with a sense of spiritual freedom that says that you can find God, of whatever name you might call it. You can find connection and transcendence and wonder and comfort and joy anywhere. And that she finds that sense of spiritual freedom when she is making music. Even if making music for her is just singing along with all the artists that she listens to on the radio. Now, my church, personally, is found in a lot of places. It's here, obviously. It's in our spiritual community at Wellsprings. It is, just like Maren Morris, sometimes in the car with the radio blaring. It is often in nature, anywhere for me that's near water. And specifically, I like the combo of water and trees. I'm more of a riverbank, creek kind of person than a beach person, though I do love the beach too. These are all places where I feel that sense of connection, and where I feel that unique feeling that maybe you felt of being small and held by the universe, but at the same time immense and spread out and a part of everything around me. Anybody have that feeling anywhere? And for the last year or so, there's been another place that's felt like my church. It is the School of Rock, where I signed up for the adult music program during my sabbatical last year, at the beginning of 2025. Now, I chose that as one of my sabbatical projects for two reasons, and one was professional. In a congregation like ours that doesn't have a paid music director on staff, which you may not realize, the band pretty much figures this out themselves. But that also means that sometimes I become the de facto music director. And that means that sometimes I have to coordinate and organize things for our band when I don't really know what I'm doing. The process of choosing songs, scheduling substitute musicians, deciding what fits into which service, that is all me. If anybody wants to donate an extra $20K a year or so, we could hire someone. I would love that. They would have more experience. Come talk to me after the service. But in the meantime, I figured that this would be a way to improve my skills, to learn a little bit about what it takes to make music as a band. And so I signed up for the adult music program, in part to learn how bands work together, understand the basics of all this equipment that they use, the role that different instruments and sections play. But the other reason I chose this as a sabbatical project was honestly because I wanted to. A while back, one of my new bandmates in the program there asked me how often I practice singing. And I said, oh, I sing every day. Every day. And I thought back on it and I realized that with the exception of like actual infancy and probably a few days of serious illness, I've probably sung every single day of my life. It's not work for me. I have also been taking lessons on keys, and honestly, The keys I have to make myself sit down and practice. I enjoy it, but I have to nudge myself to do it. But never with singing. Never. I wonder for you, is there anything in your life that pours out of you like that you never have to force yourself to do? Can you think of anything? Do you want to share? Anybody? Julie? Dancing. I can see that. Kathleen? Humming. Terry?
When I'm cooking.
I can see that too. I know you. Cooking. Pam? Writing. Yeah. And how does it feel when you're in the midst of that? You don't have to share that because I know that's maybe a little hard to put into words. But think about how it feels when you're in the midst of doing that thing that pours out of you. I know for me, when I'm in the midst of singing, it feels like that thing that Matt mentioned earlier, that thing that we say every Sunday morning here, that there's nowhere else to be and there's nothing else to do. That we can only be in the present moment. And it feels also like I'm connected to myself and the other people around me in those moments, even if I don't know them at all, let alone well. There is so much in common for me between that feeling I get and this feeling that I get being here with all of you. For me, the practice of making music is so much like a spiritual practice. It's so much like the spiritual practice of gathering here in community. Every summer here at Wellsprings, we choose a few movies and TV shows to preach on for what we call our Spirit Flick series in the summertime. We dig into one of the stories that we're watching on our screens right now, and we see what that story might have to reveal to us about how to live more fully, or how to be more spiritually alive in this world. I know today's movie is not School of Rock with Jack Black, so that would have been fun. It's a different movie that originally was not on my list, but I added it because I realized that it would give us a chance to talk about this and to explore this feeling of connection and vitality that I think is so necessary, especially in the times that we're living through right now. I think cultivating that feeling, giving ourselves the opportunity to feel it, is necessary for our survival right now. And it comes from an interesting place. It's a movie about a Neil Diamond impersonator. Song Sung Blue. Has anyone seen this? It's on Netflix. Yeah, a couple of you. Honestly, Neil Diamond is not my thing. Shout out to any Neil Diamond fans out there. You'll love this movie. And that's probably why it wasn't on my list originally. But this movie is also a real life story. It's based on the life of two people, Mike and Claire Sardina, a husband and wife duo who formed a locally famous Neil Diamond tribute band in Milwaukee in the early 90s. And hey, they did that, and now they have a movie made about their lives where they are played by Hugh Jackman and Kate Hudson, so not bad. The glow up is real, for sure. But all of the beauty and color and joy in this movie was real before it was ever picked up by Netflix. Mike was a recovering alcoholic with 20 plus years of sobriety. He was a Vietnam vet, a part-time mechanic who just loved to entertain and to help people feel something. Claire is a divorced mom of two, caring, at the time that she met Mike, caring for her own elderly mother as well, who lived with them. She was struggling to make ends meet, but still finding time to sing Patsy Cline tunes at the Wisconsin State Fair circuit. And Mike and Claire met at a show, and they decided to make music together and also to patch together a new family with each other. Their biggest moment of success is captured in the movie, and it did really happen. Eddie Vedder once asked their duo to open for Pearl Jam on the Wisconsin leg of Pearl Jam's national tour in 1995. It turns out Eddie Vedder was a huge Neil Diamond fan, and he had heard about their local following there in Milwaukee. He even joined the couple on stage to sing Forever in Blue Jeans as an encore at the Milwaukee Summerfest. Yeah. But one of the things I loved was that in the movie, and apparently in real life, Mike Sardina didn't know who Eddie Vedder was. I mean, he was an older dude, right? He'd never heard of Pearl Jam when he got the gig. He was just psyched to play for a huge crowd of people who he knew would love to hear and dance and sing along with his music. In the movie and in real life, the Sardina family is also visited by a lot of tragedy and a lot of trauma. Claire is still with us today, but Mike died about 20 years ago. He died at age 55 after a lifetime of heart problems that were probably exacerbated by his alcoholism when he was younger and his time serving. Claire, as we see happen in the movie, was struck by a car in a wild accident. A car lost control coming around a bend in front of her home and hit her while she was in the front yard gardening. Yeah. Her leg had to be amputated because of the injury, which led to years of depression that played out during her recovery and rehabilitation. Claire's teenage daughter also got pregnant around the same time that Claire was recovering. And so together they all navigated the adoption process for that baby girl, all while fighting each day to pay rent and put food on the table. Which is to say that their story is very normal. It is an everyday crisis and stress and disappointment-filled life. But that life is also completely full, as we see in the film, of joy and music and beauty and color. At one point, as Claire is just coming out of an intensive program to support her mental health recovery, she says to her husband, "You know, Mike, bad things happen over and over and over again, but I still just want to sing. I still want to shine." I think we know, on some level, even when we forget it, that both of those things can exist side by side. That struggle and misery and disappointment can exist right alongside joy and color and brightness. I think that's actually what Pride Month is all about. I think it's what Juneteenth celebrations are all about. It's our human nature. It is that spirit that lives somewhere inside of us that refuses to let the trauma and the pain that this world will sometimes deal out to us have the last word. The refusal to let all of that struggle dull our shine or silence our song. I saw that at Pride Fest for sure last weekend. And I loved how this movie, this story, reminds us that the greatest success is not granted to us by some kind of external validation, like the music industry picking us up, or follower counts, or fame. The greatest success is granted really by the people around us. It's granted when we feel that feeling, that this is the only place we can be. There's nowhere else to go and nothing else to do. That feeling that we are connected to ourselves and the other people around us, even if we don't know them at all. I'll tell you all of the highlights of my last year of making music. Trust me, they've had nothing to do with external markers of success. When you pay for a program like the School of Rock, you're paying for the privilege of someone organizing all that stuff for you. We've had 3 gigs, and I put gigs in air quotes strongly, right? They arranged for us to go play somewhere, and we put some songs together. But I have had incredible highlights, and honestly, they've mostly happened in rehearsal. Now that I'm looking at more like videos online about making music, I get a lot of things fed to me on social media by the algorithm. And I saw one just the other day that resonated for me. It said, gigs are not really about the audience. Gigs are actually about trying to play literally anything that gets your bandmates to go, "Oh yeah." That's almost the only compliment that matters. It might be a bit of an exaggeration, but it resonates for me. I am never going to forget the feeling I got the first time that our band played Alice Cooper's School's Out. And the part is like, "No more pencils, no more..." Yeah. So there's a harmony part, And the first time I sang that harmony part in rehearsal, one of my bandmates just broke out in the hugest smile. I'm looking around at some of our musicians. I don't know if you guys feel that way. But, we're not really making music, I think, to reach some marker of success. I think we do it to make each other happy, to help each other feel something. The algorithm showed me something else a few weeks ago. It was a quote from a musician named Joshua Heath Scott. And he said, "There is a version of musical success that almost nobody on the internet talks about, but it's the most common one in human history, which is that you make music with your friends. You record your songs, you play the local bar on Friday and the church on Sunday and the festival in the park in July. You teach a kid down the street how to hold a guitar. You write something that gets sung at a wedding. You die having made beauty for the people who shared your life. That is success. That has always been success. And most musicians or writers or chefs who have ever lived have lived exactly that life. And most of them were not unhappy about it. Making music on a regular basis, for me, has taught me that the greatest joy is making music on a regular basis. And of course, that's not just true for music. Whatever that thing is for you that flows from you, that you would do every single day without ever having to force yourself, that can bring you that joy. And I have been noticing recently in all of us here, I hear stories from each of you this past year, about that longing that you have in this moment of our life and in our collective history as a country to pour yourselves into the things that are joyful, to pour yourselves into community and local things that you get to do with other people, whether it's a poetry group or a local theater, amateur sports leagues, going to shows, just spending time with friends and loved ones in whatever ways that we do. That longing is not separating us from the struggles of the world. It's not a distraction. It's part of it. Because that pull in us towards joy and color, it lives right alongside the struggle. It's why we need the joy. You've probably heard people talk about this idea of joy as resistance, right? Joy as resistance. The modern use of that phrase originates with a black poet named Toy Derrycote in a book that she published in 2011. But the idea, obviously, is older. And it is mostly found running through the work of marginalized communities of people who have always had to struggle to feel safe. It runs all throughout the work of Black artists like Audre Lorde, through movements for Black freedom across history. The spiritual practices of gospel music in the Black church is all about joy as resistance. And it's also found in queer liberation movements throughout history. I remember writing a paper in college about the idea of camp, not summer camp, right? But like camp in gay media and culture. Camp as in the silliness, the glitter, the exaggerated aesthetics of drag and John Waters movies, right? All of that. And I titled my paper after one of the quotes that I found from a queer activist who said, yeah, through all of this, it is being so camp that keeps us going. The author, Dan Savage, also talked about this in one of his more well-known reflections on the feelings around activist burnout and the frustration of dealing with political backlash that he and his friends faced when they were living and dying through the AIDS crisis of the 1980s. Some of you may have heard this. He said, in those days, we buried our friends in the morning. We protested in the afternoon. And we danced all night. But it was the dance that kept us in the fight, because it was the dance that we were fighting for. The joy is not separate from the struggle. It's the reason why. And in our own spiritual tradition, the joy is not separate from living our faith either. Because that joy that we feel whenever we are doing the thing we love most, it is sourced from that well of deep belovedness that we all have access to, that we all get to draw from. And we are called to remember, as Universalists especially, that that well is for all of us. That we draw the circle as wide as possible so that we can each live in a way where we don't just share joy with ourselves or with our friends or the ones closest to us, the people we like, the people who are most like us. No, we work instead for a world where all people can share in that joy because we all deserve it. We commit in this faith to let our lives shape us and change us, to grow our hearts big enough so that we can all link up with each other and create a world where no one is left behind or left out. The story goes that Neil Diamond wrote Sweet Caroline. We're not going to sing it, don't worry. The story goes that Neil Diamond wrote Sweet Caroline in a Memphis hotel room in an hour. In an hour. It must have just poured out of him. That song that has brought joy to millions of people in stadiums and in crusty bars and living rooms for more than 50 years now. Memphis is also the home of Craig Brewer, the director of Song Sung Blue. Some other movies you've probably heard of too. He directed Hustle and Flow, Dolomite Is My Name, that guy. But Craig gave an interview about Song Sung Blue to a local paper when the movie was released last year. And he told them, you know, here in Memphis, you are surrounded by a lot of musicians who are in multiple bands. None of them are making money off of those bands. If anything, they're probably losing money if you look at the time and the effort that they put in. And that's really what I wanted this movie to be about. He said, I think that we have gotten away from the right kinds of expectations and goals that we set for ourselves in terms of success. He said, I've made a lot of movies, I have a career, I can consider myself a successful filmmaker. But the way I became that filmmaker was by being broke here in Memphis with a bunch of broke friends and saying, hey, what are we doing this weekend? Maybe we can make something. That's where I found myself. And that's where we all find our voice. I'm worried that today, he said, there's a bit more emphasis on views and likes and are you selling out arena tours and not on questions like, am I healthy in my community of friends and family and in the city I live in? And are we all able to make the things that we want to make, do the music we want to do, paint the paintings we want to paint? That, he said, is the real gauge of victory, because you have such a greater capacity for joy in that kind of scenario than you ever would from being big and famous. That joy is here for all of us, friends. May you remember that it is not silly, that it is not a distraction. May you remember that it is your birthright to find it and to practice it and to let it keep you going. Amen. And may you all live in blessing. I'll invite you all to join me now in the spirit of prayer, and as I do so, I'll also invite our band to make their way back up on stage for our last song this morning. If you're comfortable, you can let your eyes fall closed. You can take a deep breath. Maybe taking that deep breath reminds you for the first time today that you are breathing. That you've been breathing since you woke up this morning, all last night while you were asleep. That your body has been keeping you alive by taking in this breath and letting it go every moment since you were born. The giver of this life is a mystery to us. We don't know why exactly we are here. But here we are. And there's so much in this life that we feel, that we experience, the beautiful and the tragic. There is so much mystery and so much struggle to make sense of it all. And the tools we are given are also mysteries. Poetry and music, the stories of other people, the lives of the people who sit around you in these chairs, the lives of the people who have lived and written about their lives for thousands of years, the lives of the people in the scriptures and ancient religions, all of us just trying to make sense of what it is to be alive. This morning, may you let yourself off the hook if you haven't figured it all out yet. And may you remember that the stories of the people around you, and the stories of the music, and the writing, and the art, all hold clues to this grand mystery that we are privileged to be a part of. These prayers have spoken out loud, and for the prayers that each of you are carrying on your hearts today, we say amen.